Okay, so what you're going to see different today is some coefficients on the outside here. So, for example, you might see 5 square root of 40. All right? So, here's how you are to do this. You have to look at 40 and break it down just like you did without a 5 being there. Except this time, the 5 kind of comes along for the ride. So the 5 is kind of waiting, and while you break the 40 down into the square root of 4 times the square root of 10. Now, here's where you're going to have to show a step that you're going to complain about because you don't want to. So the square root of 4 is 2, right? And what do you think you have to do with that 2 and that 5? Multiply them. But you can't do it right now. You have to show me this step, and you'll thank me later when we get into doing problems like this. This is our goal, is to do these problems, and if you do not show this step now, you're going to be lost later. So trust me, please. So leave that 5 there. Cross out when you pull out that square root of 2, and then recopy that 10. So that middle step right there is so important because it's showing me where your new coefficient is coming from. So 5 times 2 is 10 with the square root of 10 as an answer. So that answer is 10 square root of 10. Because, let's see, ignore that 5. If that 5 wasn't there, wouldn't your answer just be 2 square roots of 10? But the 5 is there, so now it's 10 square root of 10 because you just multiply it by what you had. Okay? So let's take negative 2 square roots of 80. Okay? And again, your goal is to find not just a number that's on this list, but the biggest number that's on this list. So let me show you what would happen. If I look at 80 and I think, you probably instantly think 4 times 20. Okay? Let's just do that. It's not going to be the best way, but I'll show you in a minute. So you're going to write negative 2 and then the square root of 4 times the square root of 20. This isn't going to be the best way because once I pull that out, I still have a 20 that needs to be broken down. And if you have to break it down twice, you know you didn't find the biggest number. So let's just do this. Let's recopy this 2. Let's pull that 2 out. And let's leave that 20 because now I have to do negative 4 square roots of 20. And now I have to do another round of it, right? Which is unnecessary. But in a minute, I'm going to give you a tip to help you find the biggest one. So now this stays here, and this gets broken down into the square root of 4 square root of 5, right? And then now this negative 4 stays, and this 2 gets brought out again and multiplied by that 4. And now negative 4 times 2 is negative 8 square roots of 5, okay? So here's the deal. When you're dealing with some bigger numbers, you know, when you deal with numbers less than, 50, you know all those factors. But when you get into these bigger numbers, there are factors that you may not know of. So my advice to you is going to be to start by just taking that number in a calculator if you need to and dividing it. Well, it's divided by 2 is 40. 80 divided by 3 doesn't even go evenly, so that's not an option. You know that 80 divided by 4 is going to give you 20, but take 80 and divide it by 5, and what do you get? 16. And isn't 16 that number? 4 worked, but 16's bigger. It's kind of like finding the GCF. You want the biggest possible number. So watch. If I would have taken the square root of 80 and broken it down into the square root of 16 times the square root of 5. And then the square root of 16 is what? 4. And what is negative 2 times 4? I saved myself a whole lot of work, didn't I? So here's your choice. Spend a couple minutes to find that largest square root. Or if you're comfortable doing it in a couple different flights, break it down, then break it down again, I guess. The choice is yours. Okay? So you can choose how you'd like to do that. So let's take a look at 72. So the square root of 72, you can go ahead and do it as the square root of 9 times the square root of 8 because I know that that's the first set of facts that popped into your mind, right? But if I take the square root of 9 and get 3, there's still a 4 buried in 8, which I'll have to do it again. So instead of doing that, I might take my calculator and just start to divide things. Oh, look at that, first try. So my advice to you, if you have a bigger number, try cutting it in half first. Because when you do, that is a pretty big number that's pretty far down on the list. I don't think it's getting much better than that one. So let's take the square root of 72 and break it down into the square root of 2 times the square root of 36. Let's put a 4 out there. Okay? So let's say our problem started with a 4. So now you have to know that that just gets brought down. This is going to stay. This 4 gets multiplied by this 6. And the 2 stays. And the 6 times 4, and your answer is 24 square roots of 2. Got it? So what to do when there is a number on the outside? You just bring it along for the ride. Yes, you have to show this step. You can't say that 6 in your head, multiply it by 4, and go right to 24. Trust me, you'll thank me later. Okay? So why don't you try this one? 5 times the square root of 90. And don't overthink this one. 9 and 10 works, right? Because 10 is as simple as it's going to get. What are the factors of 10? 1 times 10 and 2 times 5. Are any of those factors of 10 on this list? Nope. And I'm telling you that crossing that off is going to be very helpful. Okay, is that what you got?
Did we put anything in the middle of the 9 and the 10?
In the middle between here? Nope. It's just 15 square roots of 10, okay? All right.